Welcome to So What's It Actually About? I'm your host, Bheka, and I, along with my wide array of guests, hope to help you better understand and weather the wonderful world of actuarial science. Hello everyone, and welcome to today's episode. I am joined by Bheka, and thank you for being here first.
Thank you so much. I'm actually so proud of myself for being early. So rule of orientation peak, I was 1 hour late. So you're on time today, I'm very proud of myself.
Just for context, we are recording this at 7:30 in the morning, and Bheka was here before I was, so that's very impressive. So Bheka, standard question. Tell us a bit about yourself, sort of your background, where you went to school, and then sort of where you are currently in your studies.
Okay, so a little bit about myself in a nutshell was I started primary school at Tamil High School.
Okay.
And how I got here basically was, there was one day in grade 6 when I was at home that I was playing with a candle because it was load shedding at home. And then and then later on that night, I accidentally burnt a piece of my pants. And then I went to school with that same pants because it was PE. And then my English teacher, Mrs. Daudius, recognized me and was like, "Hey, Bheka, would you like to apply for a scholarship to go to SATS?" And I was like, "Oh, ma'am, that seems pretty cool. Let's do it. I'll give my mom the form."
And she recognized you because of...
Yeah, exactly. That was significant, yeah.
Deeply. So we're actually thankful to ESCOM.
I'm thankful. God bless those guys, man. They're into what they are. They're my boys. They're my boys. And then time went by, and then she saw that my marks were decent, and I was like, "Okay, I really think you should apply." And then her daughter worked at the junior school, and then basically got me an opportunity to go there for an interview.
Okay.
Long story short, I got into SATS.
Okay.
From grade 7, my marks plummeted at first because it was difficult
adjustment
to SATS. Yeah, exactly. But then from grade 8 and onwards, I adjusted to SATS, got a few leadership roles, got to matric, did decent, got into UC.
I mean, I think you have to have done more than decently to get into actuarial science. So what subjects did you do at school?
So I did physics, accounting, economics, and IT as extra subjects.
Okay.
And the thing is, I did do A-levels, but I don't count it. The thing is, it was like this extra subject we did at school, and I crammed the whole A-levels course in 3 days.
What?
Yeah, I know, it was...
And A-level courses, which ones did you do for those?
It was maths, just maths.
Just maths. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, good grief. So
Yeah.
that was quite something.
Yeah.
And then, so tell me, I mean, you've talked about you were at SACS.
Yeah.
You obviously did very technical and business subjects. So it's obviously something that you're quite interested in.
Yeah.
Why actuarial science?
Why actuarial science? Because actuarial science, I love the fact that it's got that math stats background, and I can also get that financial engineering aspect of it. And I really want to be a quant.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get into the asset management space through the CFA route. I want to get it through that quant route.
Okay.
And looking at the modules that UCT offers.
Yeah.
Like even from first year, it's like always been something that I just wanted.
Okay, and when you say from first year, you're in first year, right? That's part of the reason I asked you to be on the podcast, because I was like, we've had people who are in honors, but how about we get someone who is just starting? You're literally out of school. I mean, your exposure to actuarial science has been, 2 months?
Yeah.
And talk to that. How's that been? Was it what you expect it to be?
It's really been much harder than I expected. People would also always say, matric is hard.
They said the same thing to me.
And then I went there and it was okay. And then I got here and then I absolutely got obliterated. Especially this one subject called intros, guys.
Which is my subject.
No offense to you, but it's just that the terminology, the stuff is so new.
It is.
Like the maths, okay, so maths is very hard, but it's some stuff we've been exposed to.
Yeah.
But that's actually a risk, we've never been exposed to.
Yeah. But are you enjoying it? Is it something you're enjoying the challenge of, or are you finding it a little bit overwhelming?
It's a lot, but I am enjoying the prospects of it, the actual risk side of it, the prospects of the subject. I'm enjoying it.
But you said when we were chatting before this that you are more interested in the asset side.
Yeah.
So why did you choose to do the actuarial subjects? Because you're so interested in the asset side. I mean, actually still work with assets.
Yeah.
But why wouldn't you just start with quantify? Because you're still in the actuarial side stream, right?
Yeah.
So explain why you've chosen that route.
Because I could have just went the quantify route, but the thing is, with actual risk, I'm one of those person, as your mouth says, you love to challenge yourself. So I was always been someone who I didn't want to take the easy route into something. And I did hear that Actuarial Science was a very hard course, but I didn't believe that it was hard. I thought it was,
don't actually know until you're there.
Exactly, like no one could have prepared me for this. Like, it's crazy. Yep.
And tell me, I mean, you are the intros class rep, right? Tell me how that came about, because when you were nominated, right, to be class rep, there were like all these cheers in the class, and I feel like there's a story behind Bheka. Like, were you campaigning? Like, what was happening there?
I didn't even know when there was no campaigns, man. But to me, bro, like, I just make videos and stuff, funny videos apparently.
Oh, we're going to TikTok, is that? Oh,
it's like a UCT video where
okay, so you're UCT famous. I see. Okay. I was just wondering, because everyone was shouting, and I was like, wow, Bheka's really popular in Estonia. Our first lecture.
That's right.
And something I really want us to talk about, which I think a lot of, especially matrics who are considering actuarial science will ask, is what has been the big difference between moving from school to being at university? And when I say the big difference, I don't only mean the work. I mean, like the whole sort of how big the classes are, the environment. Talk to all of the facets of university life that are different to school or different from school.
Besides the workload, obviously the workload's massive.
Yes.
Okay? But unlike school where you have the 2 long test week, it's a little bit more spaced out. So you can work around that in a bit. But the biggest challenge is about like how big the classes are. When you walk, like a lot of my friends told me the first few weeks, they were very overwhelmed, but purely by the fact that there were so many people around them walking around to lectures and stuff.
Yeah.
Like there are literally thousands of people walking up and down.
Yeah.
And it takes time for someone to be able to adjust to that, especially if you're a more introverted type of person.
Yeah.
And also like in lectures, it can be very hard to ask questions, where some lectures have about 300 people.
Yeah, and especially like Eco, there's a massive classes.
It's crazy, accounting especially.
I remember when I was in first year, because I was at BITS and I studied ecos as part of my actuarial degree. And I remember like there were, I think, 3 or 4 diagonals or slots that you could go to lectures in. And the lectures were massive. People were sitting on on the stairs and stuff. And then when you would go write your test, I remember when we wrote our first test, it was like 1,600 people in this venue. And it's really overwhelming, because you just feel like you're just this one little person in the midst of so many people, whereas at school you feel a little bit more seen. Also, I think, like, how has it been to now have lecturers as opposed to teachers? I mean, there's a very different interaction and a different relationship that you have with a lecturer and a teacher. How have you found that difference?
Thing is, like, I'd advise people, like, obviously between a teacher at high school, you could get a more close relationship.
And you'll see them more often, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But also, I wouldn't discourage people from trying to obtain relationships with their lecturers.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, what's the difference between a lecturer and a teacher? They're both humans. So, like, what I always do is, like, before every lecture, like, I always greet the lecturers. Like,
I mean, you come every single lecture, you come and say hi to me.
Like, to establish that relationship.
Yeah.
But like, for me, like, the norm was always, like, even from high school, I still have my normal pencil case. Was like, worked, like, always greeting the teachers, being nice and respectful to teachers and my classmates. That worked then, so I'm just trying to, like, keep that flowing and let it work now, so.
And tell me, are you staying in res? Are you staying at home? How's that been?
I'm currently staying at Upper Campus Residence.
Okay.
PCR.
Okay.
Yeah, it's much better to stay at res, because if I had to travel from home, it would have been such a mission.
I mean, I thought as much, but also, I mean, res can be expensive, and there's all those sort of considerations to take into account. But how's that been, living in a res? But you were in a boarding house at
I was at a boarding house,
Okay, so you're familiar with Okay. And are you sharing a room?
I'm not sharing.
Oh, you got your own. Okay. Because I know that obviously if you're sharing and you're sharing with someone who's in a very different degree, it can be quite difficult. From like managing time and studying and being considerate and that sort of thing. So you've got your own place. And have you enjoyed that res culture?
I've really enjoyed it. At UCR, I've been doing an exceptional job, because I remember the first few weeks we were constantly doing war cries and stuff. Activities with each other. Even now, everyone in first year, we're very close with each other.
Yes.
It's just vibes.
So nice. So you feel like you're like part of a community there and you cared for.
Yeah, like back at boarding house at school.
Okay, very nice.
Feeling those vibes.
Very, very nice. And so, I mean, when we spoke before this, there was something I said to you. I said, come with questions. What are some of the questions you
Some
have?
of the questions that I have
So, shoot.
is, as uni students, how can we adjust to that stats mindset? Because apparently next year, a lot of the people that kick people out of Exide is that stats 2004 F course.
Yeah.
So how can we adjust our mindsets in order to like cope with that stats?
Well, I think something that a lot of students struggle with in the transition between school and university is that element of taking responsibility for their own learning.
Yeah.
Right? So you come to a lecture, but I don't teach you everything in that lecture that you can be assessed on. I introduce you to the topic, I show you 1 or 2 questions, but then you kind of have to take that and go build on it and build your own proficiency.
Yeah.
Now, with mathematics and statistics, it's hierarchical, right? And what I mean by that is that the pieces or the concepts that you learn build on top of each other, right? And so if your foundation is not good, as you are building complexity, if you don't understand your basics, that the more complex it becomes, the more lost you become because your basics are not good. So what I would generally say is make sure that you get stats 1 right? So in the second half of this year, when you are doing stats, make sure that you're really understanding the concepts you're introduced to. Make sure you understand the distribution. Make sure that you understand your expected value and your variance and your PDFs and your PMFs and all those sort of things. And that probably sounds like French right now, but you need to actually make sure that you get your basics right. And I think students don't do that, and they get into second year and they're expecting a lecturer to go from the basics. But the lecturer assumes that you have mastered the previous year's work. And so that's my first sort of comment there. My second comment would be make sure that you are searching out extra resources. There's mounds of resources online that maybe aren't specific to exactly what you're doing in class, but it can give you context to what you're doing. Yeah. And that's that element of taking responsibility for your own learning. You can't just depend on a lecturer to steer every part of your learning. You have to build your own proficiency. And that's a big part of being, I think, a student at university, but particularly an actuarial science student, because you're going to be given problems throughout your career that are not structured, that you're going to have to give structure to, that you are going to have to figure out how to solve. And actuarial education is quite similar. We give you the kind of key tools, but you have to connect them and see how they kind of fit together. And so I think that would be my advice there. But then also seek out someone who's done the course recently, see what their learnings are. A big thing students don't do is they don't actually consult with their lecturers. If you're confused, don't just continue going to lectures and hope that it's going to figure itself out. You need to address the confusion or the misunderstanding. Otherwise, you're just going to fall further and further behind. So those are some of the things you need to do. But stats is also, and I want to encourage you in this, stats is difficult, right? So everyone's like trying to forego the struggle that stats is. Yeah. And I'm like, push into it. It's a struggle. And it makes it all that more rewarding when you figure it out.
Just get it.
So it's not going to be easy. I mean, for some people, it is easier than others.
And
there's
a lot of people in our class like that.
Yeah, but the thing is that like you can be a highly mathematical person and still struggle with stats, because stats is an applied mathematics in the sense that like you're using data and you're trying to extract information. And so yes, you have to have very strong mathematical skills, but being good at statistics is a slightly different skill, which they are trying to develop in you. Otherwise, why would you do stats and maths? You could have just done maths, Yeah. So there is a difference in the two disciplines. Yeah. So that would be my encouragement there.
Thank you so much.
What other question would you like to ask?
Another question I have is, I heard that if you do the B-Pass side in Actuarial Science, Special Science, and Quant Finals, I think Sherry told us that we can't graduate with the Actuarial Science qualification. So if I'm looking to be a quant and be in that space,
yes,
but I still want to get my 4-year B-Pass in Actuarial Science, in Actuarial Science, and I want to call myself an actuary, what other route can I take?
So, I mean, there's many routes you can take depending on the university that you're at. Obviously, we're at UCT. Yeah. So I think what happens at UCT is in third year, that's where the quant-fi and actuarial science students kind of split, right? And what the quant-fi students do is they start looking more at finance subjects and specifically asset subjects. If you stay in the actuarial science route, you do the life contingency